Real talk, the metaphor messiah, man. I got this one. Let's go. You ever seen the morning star? Mr. Metaphor Messiah, back to show you who we are. I represent a legacy, a pothead like the 70s, a different kind of mind. They say we only speak in melodies.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Dead on Dave. And it's Wrestlemania week, folks. I mean, look, not everybody is the happiest people in the world when it comes to some of the WWE booking at times, but it doesn't matter what promotion it is. It doesn't matter who you are. When WrestleMania is happening and you love wrestling, it doesn't get any better. Everybody congregates to wherever WrestleMania is happening, and everything else just kind of fades away. It's our Super Bowl, and it's an entire week of festivities. So what better way to kick off WrestleMania week than with a top three? We're going to do one of these top threes each and every day leading up until WrestleMania. We're going to start with the sexiest one of them all. The three sexiest moments in WrestleMania history. And who better to give this to you than the sexiest wrestling talking head on YouTube? Me, Dead on Dave. Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better. So let's get right into it, man. And let's start with an honorable mention, because everybody talks about this as being the sexiest moment in wrestling history, and one of them at least. I don't necessarily agree. I think it's up there, but for me, it's just an honorable mention. Highly honorable mention, but an honorable mention nonetheless. What am I talking about? Let's find out. That's right. WrestleMania 22, Mickie James and Trish Stratus. Now, this was the culmination of a very weird storyline, very sexy storyline, and this whole story had just weirdness and bizarre movements and gestures and everything, and this match was a perfect epitome of that. There was a crotch grab and a smell. That's all I'm going to say. By far, one of the sexiest moments in the history of WrestleMania, but it doesn't crack my top three. So, no more gilding lily. Let's get in to that top three, shall we? Starting with number 3. Now, let's keep in mind here that sexy is very subjective, and what gets my motor running may not necessarily get yours, and for most of you sickos out there, what gets your motor running probably doesn't get mine. I'm getting older, so when I look at the top 3, there's different things that I'm looking for, and for the first one, for my number 3 spot, I go with WrestleMania 18 and Stacey Keibler, man. She absolutely stole the show in a lot of sense, not only for the match, but for the entire night, every time she was on camera. And this was kind of indicative of her entire wrestling career. Whenever she's on camera, the camera just gravitates toward her. You can't look away from her. Her legs. I mean, remember, this WrestleMania and during Access, she actually had a statue made of her butt and legs. And people were going crazy over that thing. It's insane. Now, she grinds on Saliva, the band Saliva. I know, not one of the best musical moments in the history of WrestleMania for some. She grinds on them. She flashes Jeff Hardy. I mean, she steals a lot of moments, and it's unbelievably sexy. Something about her with the Dudleys just worked, and for me, it just... I love Stacey Keibler, and it's just one of those moments that I look back on over and over, and I remember it. No matter what else happened at WrestleMania 18, I remember this moment. I remember her with Saliva. I remember her flashing, showing her goodies to Jeff Hardy, distracting him. I mean, he is only a man after all. It was so good, and she is just so electrically hot. So for me, that is easily a number 3. But what's number 2? And we're going to go from the scorching and delectable Stacey Keibler. Where could we go for number 2? Well, it's about to get hotter up in here, is all I'm about to say. But why is it going to get hot? How could it possibly get hotter than Stacey Keibler? Well, you take one of the most legendary tag teams of all time, and you put in one of the original divas, the original sexy female managers, a woman who kind of changed the way women valets There's an S there. When the valets did their jobs and the way they looked while doing it. We're talking about Sunny and LOD. That's right. Legion of Doom 2000 and debut of Sunny and her flaming hot top. I mean, okay, it didn't work as them as a unit very long. I mean, you can't go from Paul Ellering leading this team to Sunny and expect everybody to be on board. In WWE, Vince McMahon always wanted to mess with the Legion of Doom. They always wanted to change the way that they looked and seemed. They wanted to update them. And this was one of the last times that they really tried to put a lot of new innovation into it. And for some people, it worked. Others, it didn't. WrestleMania 14 has a lot of fond memories. And I think for anybody who's a Legion of Doom fan, you may not love the pairing of Sunny and them, but you cannot forget how she looked in that outfit. It was ridiculous. It's another one of those moments where all eyes go on her. And it's unfortunate sometimes when the tag team that a manager is representing falls into the background, but when Sunny looks like this, you really can't blame all of us for staring a little bit longer. And Sunny and her, she was one of my first boy-girl things, okay? One of my first real true boy-girl things was Sunny. I don't want to get too much more graphic than that, but I think you understand what I mean. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, and I love Legion of Doom. So for me, it worked, and it's something that I just can't get out of my mind after, Jesus, we're 20 years later almost, still up in there. So this is a great moment, and it's number 2 sexiest moments of all time. But what's number 1? Well, let's anger some people with a number 1 pick, shall we? Because when does that ever happen? Let's get into it. Number 1s are tricky. They're always difficult. They're never easy to suss out when you're doing these type of lists, because do you go with the classic moments? If so, I could have easily went with Mickie James and Trish Stratus, but I actually decided to go with something a little bit more modern. In fact, it happened just last year, and it's with somebody that is so polarizing that it doesn't matter how sexy it actually was. People are going to simply backlash against it. But the reality is, WrestleMania 32, it doesn't matter how bad the main event match between Triple H and Roman Reigns was, one thing everybody was talking about was Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon opened the entire segment with this riveting, captivating, and just ungodly sexy speech, demeaning us all, but drawing us in. And the outfit that she dared to pull off in her late 30s, and she pulled it off wonderfully, by the way, is just something to be inspired by in a multitude of ways. I don't know if it's just because I'm older, and I don't know if young bucks in their teens are looking at her in the same way that I do, but there are just simply not too many women in the WWE or wrestling in general that I find more sexy than Stephanie McMahon. Don't beat me up, Paul. Don't beat me up. It's simply true. Your wife is absolutely gorgeous. And when she does things like this, there's no way that you can't stop and pay attention. Now, it doesn't matter what you thought of the match. You definitely talked about this moment. I remember my timeline on Facebook and Twitter last year had a lot of these screen captures. And it's, for me, maybe it's because it's so recent, it has catapulted into my number 1. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, you're missing so many moments, and maybe I am, but this is the top 3, and I just wanted to give one honorable mention. So if you have moments that should be in the top 3, or you feel that I missed the mark completely, hit me up in the comment section below, and hit me up on the Twitters at DeadOnDaveV. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought of the list. And is Stephanie McMahon's moment from last year the hottest in WrestleMania history? I think so. That's all I got, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. We are going to be doing these all week. Expect another one tomorrow on another topic in WrestleMania history. Maybe more traditional, maybe even more obscure. Only way you're going to find out is by tuning in. We'll see you next time. Keep it copious, folks. And remember, as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. And peace.